out to see who wins the championship this time. And we were just discussing the track beforehand, Nolan. This place is a little bit on the fun side. It's quite a compact circuit.
It very much is, and first off, yes, you did pronounce my name correctly, so thank you for that. Looking at our little track map right now, of course, one of the most unusual or unique factors of this racetrack is, of course, the Yokohama Bridge. I think the only other track that comes to my memory that actually has the track crossing over and under it is, of course, the Suzuka circuit over in Japan. This bridge, though, is a whole lot more tighter than the one in Suzuka. And another interesting point of note, that turn one sweeper, oh boy, that'll definitely make for some action on lap number 1.
Always does. Kind of similar to Suzuka turn 1 as well. It funnels you in, then tightens again for turn 2. Well, qualifying is over. We're going to go through your flying positions. Simon Edwards today coming in with the qualifying pole with a 1:14.982. Anti-Cat in second place with Claire Hughes in third. Behind them it's Lee Anderson and Ben Daniels rounding at your top 5 with Graham Carroll returning to the series. He's in P6. Nice to see him back. Daniel Tufts, Matt Cox, Anthony P.M. Jones, Clark Williams in 10th. Behind them it's Simon Maltby, Dave Kirkman, Chris Malcolm, Sarah Savage, Gary Toll, Nicholas Vaughan Roberts, Chris J. Robertson, Ewan Patterson, James McRitchie, Andrew S. Leach in 20th. Rest of those results up on your screen as Nolan. Today we've got 20 laps around this tiny little circuit. Sadly, doesn't exist anymore. It's a housing estate now.
Now just 20 laps, but let me tell you, a whole lot can happen in 20 laps. So the past race I did with this one at Brands Hatch Indy shows that you can pack an unusual amount of action into that short little lap count. I wouldn't be expecting anything less, but just thrills straight through to the end like we've seen so consistently throughout this series' history.
Absolutely, of course. We look at our 1 second bracket for an indication of how close this race will be, and we'll round things up. We'll call the pole a 1:15. It's that close. A 1:16 is 20th place, so this is a pretty close one. 1 second, 20 cars. We're to a very close race here, and sky conditions are clear, and we're looking at about 79 degrees Fahrenheit on the track with 141 degrees Fahrenheit on the track, so typical Australian weather. The track has been baked, and it is going to be interesting. Winds low, humidity is about halfway, so we're looking at a good one here. It's just past noon. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon here in Australia on a Friday, so we're looking forward to a very exciting race with not the cold track we've had recently. This one should be very, very grippy for these cars. We know we've had some issues in the very beginning of races with cold tracks before, so we'll see how the Skippy handles a hot track in this case, because everyone takes to the grid to get started. And this is one of those very short front straights, of course, Nolan, as the cars get themselves ready to go. A shoot at the beginning is going to be spicy.
Absolutely. It would not surprise me if we saw at least 3 or 4 cars flying off on the right side of that turn 1 chute. It'll certainly be interesting. Of course, the first technical braking zone going to be Coca-Cola Corner, turn 2.
Certainly is, of course, and typically turn 1 lap, and it's not so bad in this series. When you've got those high-speed corners that people tend to go off on, we tend to see that on the second lap, the first flying run down the front straight, of course. The same thing happens normally at Summit Point, especially when you've got the short version of that track. Everyone's fine on the first run because it's a very short run to that corner like it is here, but it'll be lap 2, the first full speed lap. I think we'll see our cars flying off. The guys in the Monday Night Skippy series always tend to be a little bit high quality when it comes to the racing. We tend to see a lot of good room giving, and that's a terrible phrase. That's awful from somebody who's a native to the English language. They give each other a lot of space. We'll go with that. And speaking of space, we're going to want it now because the green flag's just flown, and we're off now for lap number 1 here at Oran Park. Edwards, Cass, and Hughes starting out. Everyone filtering in single file at the start of a bobsleigh race. Anderson and Daniels behind them. Inside line by all the lead group there as we start to see them 2 wide behind them. Filter through turn 2, and you were half right. There's 2 cars have gone wide there. I believe one of them's the 83, one of them was the 17 there. Malcolm and Robertson who went wide, but no major problems. They rejoined just about perfectly well enough. We've gone through Coca-Cola and now in this go-karty section, Nolan.
Yeah, I was wondering what this little section was, and it must be a go-kart track. That's the only thing that can come to my mind. Still double file through a good portion of your field as they throw themselves back up for Yokohama Bridge now. They're going to be running down through to the Foster's Dip now, your race leaders, as we watch them thunder past your little camera here as we got one car going around and managed to hang on to that one. Daniel Tuff's taking a wild ride through the grass.
Certainly did, and of course the interesting fact there is Foster's Australian beer. Really not drunk by Australians. They export that to us peasants to drink because they don't like it. As we go to the final corner now, this long left-hander up onto the start-finish straight of what really lends itself to being more of a bike track than a car track here, of course. So they have had Viet supercars here, or Australian supercars as they are now. Single file down the front row here towards turn 1 again. It's still Edwards, Cat, Hughes, Anderson, Daniels there with Carroll behind them. Although Carroll sitting back in that second group leading the way for those boys. As everyone coming through this time with a lot more space. No cars running wide this time. No guys diving for race short inside lines. Sarah Savage there going kind of wide, and she opens herself up to a pass here from behind by Vaughan Roberts, who's going to try and come through here. The 252 machine of Vaughan Roberts looks for a move. Can't quite get it done though. She'll hold the next line.
And Vaughan Roberts has just opened his own door up to Chris J. Roberts, who just trying to make something look around the inside as they come back up from the bridge. Vaughan Roberts running a little bit wide, and Robertson going to be coming down now just across the bridge, and he is going to pick up another spot, making contact as well. Goes Nicholas Vaughan Roberts as James McRitchie also goes through.
Yeah, once the doors open, it's hard to recover it. It looks like Carroll actually went wide there in one of the penultimate corners. He just ran himself bit too far open and he let the car through, but holding it back for now. I think Cox got through on him there. Still got PM Jones and Williams behind him in that second pack of this race. Again, no position changes for our leaders. For once, they're being boring, and it seems like there is a lot of grip in this high temperature.
There is a lot of grip, but you know, that grip can fade away very quickly when you get two wheels up into the grass, which is something these drivers are really going to have to watch out for that braking zone down to the turn 1. If you get two wheels in the grass and you try to stop, you're going to find the back end just getting a mind of its own and just sprout on you in turn 2. I saw that a couple times in practice, saw it again in qualifying. Simon Maltby almost did that again just now. But so far, you know, everything's so good. Very minor incidents for now throughout this field. Nothing major just yet, Alyssa.
Absolutely, it's Rachel, by the way. We tend to get this in this series. We tend to have little incidents or one catastrophic incident. We don't tend to see a lot of bad driving. One of the things this series is well known for, of course, is the quality of the races here.
The quality of the races is definitely something that is looked highly upon for this series. They're always fun. They're always nice and exciting. And so far, we've been seeing nothing less here. I do apologize, Rachel, for that mistake on my part.
Absolutely fine. I can understand why you made that mistake. I might have been later, but for now we'll keep going as Simon Edwards leading the way still from Cat, Hughes, Anderson and Daniels here. Nothing at all changed there. Second group, only change we've seen is Cox past Carroll after Carroll's little mistake on the previous lap. Carroll's going to make the move back though here into turn 1, has the inside line, and well, Matt Cox doesn't really have anything to defend on that one into Coca-Cola corner now, the second corner. And it's a bit of a nose-to-tail job as just behind them, we're looking at where Gary Tall is racing here. Simon Maltby in this group just behind him. Maltby there racing a moment ago with Kirkman and Savage, but it doesn't seem like that one's moved around too much yet. So far, 5 places up for Gary Tall. One of the Epicure Banana boys is making his way forwards here. Up 5 spots in the meanwhile. The big climbers we've seen, Richie up 5 as well. We've got up 6 for Ruth Jones in 16th place as well. He's a climber 2. And 30th to 24th is Rhys Hardwick, but he's mired back still in kind of the rear of this field.
Well, there's still plenty of time to make something work for a lot of these drivers. Big movers, it's definitely not something that's unusual for the series. Chris J. Robertson, he's one of those drivers that actually fell down a few spots. He just picked one up, though, on, I believe that was James Child that he just completed that pass on. So Robertson, he's looking to make some moves as well and pick up those lost positions off the start. And again, he's got a lot of time to make that done.
Absolutely is, and he'll get it done as he needs to at the moment. As I'm just having a look here at Hardwick, just making a very late move there on, I think that was Keeble he just made the move with. It was, in fact, just about getting it done here. But Hole falls back there before turn 1, wasn't quite able to complete it as we have a car slow on the outside up ahead of them. I think that's going to, oh, contact there for Hardwick as he goes round in turn 2. Look at a replay of what happened here as he comes in late on the braking behind Keeble there. Did you see that one, Nolan? just gets a little break, backs into the back of him and gets sideways, spun around there. Backs it up the track, out the way of the other cars, respectfully waits and rejoins. So, our first real contact incident we've seen.
Now, the first real contact scene, and no doubt probably won't be the last, but definitely not the way that Reese Hardwick wanted his day to start, and going to have a little bit of work ahead of him to make up for lost time. Simon Edwards looking to your leader, less than just about half a second separating him to Anthony Catt down in second. So far, Simon Edwards has held every lap of this race in the lead. He's looking to keep up that streak as we approach our 1 quarter mark through the race. Catt closed in by a good quarter of a second down that front straightaway, but he was not able to make the look for the position.
And one of the things with the setup, of course, in the new current iteration of the Skip Barber is that the cornering setup, we've got a speed setup, and right now I think they're all on the cornering setup, but it's being such a tight, twisty track, and well, that makes passing hard when everyone has to go with the same style of race car, and there really are 2 options you've got at the moment between that, so we don't tend to see as much passing when it comes to the higher end guys in these sort of track configurations unless they find opportunity, but also they want to run together. You want to make sure that gap opens up, of course, because you've got the lead group there, the 5 cars. Behind them, Gary and Carroll is 2 seconds back from that group, and they want to make sure that 2 seconds stays there. That way it's 5 versus 5 rather than 10 versus 5.
Yes, so they're wanting to try to maybe get us pick a little bit of a gap up on the rest of the field and make sure that, you know, if they do start battling, they're not at risk of falling back into the other drivers, which are still battling pretty hard throughout the field as well. Still nothing looking here up front. Catt, can he try to close in a little bit more? He's down to a third of a second now this lap, so he closed in about a couple tenths that lap, but I don't think he's going to be close enough to make it look. You really have to get like the run coming off of the final corner, because if you have to rely on the slipstream really to get your momentum going for you, I don't think you're going to be having much luck at a track like this with these cornering setups.
Absolutely, I wouldn't say there's enough room really for it to be a case of slipstream on a track like this. The front straight just a little too short to get anything working. Gotta say though, Catt right up in the gearbox right now of Simon Edwards, the leader. Unity, but these guys have been so evenly matched all season, and I do really mean these 5 guys. You know, Edwards, Catt, Hughes, whilst they're the ones battling for the title. Anderson and Daniels have been all over them so far this season, and including last as well. One of my top-rated drivers, I think, who really needs to win a race is Lee Anderson. He's been performing so well. His speed is up there, and his racing is great. He's just got a little bit of Clark Williams timidness. I think he's waiting for people to make mistakes, and sometimes you've got to take some risks too.
And you can't always wait for people to make the mistakes for you. Sometimes you have to be the one to make the moves, you know, because sometimes the drivers ahead of you, they can just be a little bit too careful. All that entire top field, though, shifting to the left side of the track now as Edwards goes on the defensive. Catt now looks back to the outside. Still not able to get close enough to make that move done, but as we slowly approach the halfway point of this 20-lap race, Anderson, he is definitely close enough that he can begin to work his way back up and maybe take his first win.
Absolutely, that could be a very exciting prospect to see, but he's got a lot of competition ahead of him before that can become a factor in the race today, of course. As we've seen some speed Tall, who's now got about 2 seconds on Maltby behind him. Maltby just make a small gap here to Savage, about just under a second there, maybe 0.8 of a second between those two as Savage leads Kirkman and McRitchie around the racetrack. Behind them, Tufts, Ruth Jones, Leach as well in that group, with Patterson, Martin and Robertson in 20th place. He's just being chased down right now by Tim Adcock in 21st. I think our real action grouping here is Max, PM Jones and Williams. Actually, no, Williams dropped behind that group, so we're looking at Cox, and I'm trying to work out who that car is with them because I'm a slightly little bit confused. Graham Carroll, that's the one I was looking for. Graham Carroll, Matt Cox, and Anti-PM Jones there. Those three running really, really well together in what is 6th, 7th, and 8th place at the moment. Carroll back where he qualified after getting past Matt Cox again, but it just seems as though everything's a little bit static at the sharp end, and cars are spreading out throughout this field, so I was not seeing the closest race we were imagining.
Well, not the closest race, but it certainly is definitely not the least exciting race yet, because we still have been seeing a lot of little position shuffling throughout this field, and you know, that battle for 6th place, that is something that I've been keeping an eye on throughout this race as well. They have gotten pretty darn close to each other, and they have been doing a little bit of swapping amongst themselves. Still, though, like your top 5, they too have been keeping it relatively calmer than I expected. In all honesty, one car is sliding way off the track in a Coca-Cola corner, and who was that went clean off the circuit? A big crash, actually, in turn number 2. We have one car that's upside down there. It's Nicholas Von Roberts.
Oh, that is huge. We'll have to take a look at what exactly happened for him there, as that was a massive one. Do you want to take us through it now, then?
Well, it looks like Von Roberts, he got loose at the turn 1 kink. Replay up on your screen, and everybody just came screaming in. Very usual. And of course, Von Roberts losing it the back end through the kink, as that's coming up on your screen. Now, that's not too unusual. I'm surprised it didn't happen earlier. Came right back on the track, and watch as the entire field comes screaming in a shot, and one car, Rick Selby, just came flying in full speed, made the same mistake Roberts did, and ended up tipping that 252 machine over and onto his lid.
Absolutely crazy crash there for those guys. Unfortunate moment for them. As, oh, problems for Anti-PM Jones in turn number 2. It's that shoot down from 1 again, as he comes in very hard, loses the back end early in turn 1, and you'll see that on the replay, goes sideways and across the apex almost of turn 2. Holds it though, somehow drifts up the grass and rejoins after the corner. He'll have a slowdown and he'll be dropping that spot to Clark Williams, but big save there by Anthony Jones.
That was very, very impressive. I can tell you what I know from experience, it is not easy to save these cars with the new V7 tire models. And Anthony Jones, to save that car, that was nothing short of incredible. Through the grass, no less. So probably the track switching back definitely helped with that, but still, beautiful car control from the number 11 machine.
Oh, fantastic. I don't think I've ever seen a Skippy drift until now, and I guess we finally have. Looking at the number 6 right now, or I believe we're looking at possibly... Yep, Sarah Savage has gone off. She's had a problem. She's... oh, big incident for her there towards the end of the lap. She was alongside Maltby, and I'm not entirely sure what happens here, because I'm trying to look at the camera angle. She's got the line, and... oh, Maltby comes in on her and turns her sideways, and... I think she picked up her last point because contact with McRitchie dunked her biscuit and off she went.
So very unfortunate for Sarah Savage, who, it was a bit unfortunate, but we are going to look back to your battle for the lead now. Anthony Catt did make a look on Simon Edwards going down into turn number 2. Wasn't able to make it work, but this is definitely closed right on in. And there's one driver that had fallen further back. He's now closed in because of all of this due battling. It's Ben Daniels, excuse me, as well.
I think Ben Edwards is a whole different personality in the racing world, but we'll go with that. As definitely keep my eyes here on Anthony Catt. He's always been hungry. He's been one of the guys bringing it to Edwards here, but he's not really made a move yet. We're on lap 11. We're just past halfway here, and he's got time to make these moves. They've got a good gap to the second grouping here, but you're going to have to start thinking about it soon, because this is a track where someone will pass you back. You've got to make that move and hold it, and right now the IndyCar S-ing starts to happen on the front straight here as everyone's tucking tight to the apex of turn 1. Wide line choice here by Catt as he pulls alongside Edwards. We'll see what happens here. 2 wide into 1. Can he stick it to the outside? It's going to be very brave. Claire Hughes, seeing a little bit of blood in the water, tries to make a move here. Maybe take second place, doesn't quite get it done.
That is exactly what Catt tried to do. Turn 2, just 1 lap prior. Has to get on the brakes early. Tried to make another look down into turn 3. That didn't work out for him either. So he's going to have to settle back in second place. Probably going to have to wait around until the front straightaway before he can try to make another move on Simon Edwards for that lead. You saw Lear Hughes. He was trying to make something work for second right behind them as well. He was not able to get the move done either. Just didn't have the momentum around that inside line.
Absolutely, trying to find a way through at this point. It's going to be a tricky one for them, but we're starting to see the guys really make that opportunity and go for passes here, try to make it work. So we've gone from this, we're building time strategy of the first half of the race, which we see the leaders tend to go to. And now they're actually starting to think about how they can make passes here, get themselves set up for runs, and we're going to see the IndyCar snaking yet again. I don't think Edwards wants anyone to get us inside here, but sticking inside for 1 is going to start hurting him eventually. If someone's brave, and here goes Catt again. Second attempt at to the outside. Bit of an overlap into 1, but he won't hold it all the way through. Gets wide on the grass, manages to tuck it back in again. This might cost him now. He holds it just about. Here comes Hughes as well. He's got the nose in there. This might have been enough. He has a nose inside for turn number 3. And he makes it work. Here comes Hughes as well on RF Simon Edwards. Now we're starting to see some action.
So new leader, Anthony Catt, gets it done with an outside pass around turn number 1. Got the nose in on the run down to turn 3 and did manage to make that work. So very impressive from Anthony Catt, who was, of course, very, very brave. And you were just talking about how that inside line might start hurting Edwards if someone was trying to be brave around the outside. That is exactly what Anthony Catt did to pick up that lead. And now Lear Hughes now might try to take some inspiration from that.
I think he might. It was one of those situations where he really had to just try and keep a little bit alongside. And the outside line is possible. He can't pass around the outside, but he can keep himself relevant for the following corners, and it's exactly what he did there. So we'll see if we'll see the same from Edwards here, and whether these guys will start battling. Because if this becomes a regular occurrence, you can bet the likes of Carroll will start to catch up, and that will be an interesting fight.
It certainly will be, so I can't wait to see if Graham Carroll can try to work his way up. He has been slowly closing in that gap. As we ride on board, Lear Hughes now down into the Coca-Cola corner. Still trying to, not close enough yet to make something work. Edwards, though, has closed back end right to the gearbox of Anthony Catt. So Edwards going to be trying to fight back for his lead now. Slowly running out of time. We're going to be coming up to 6 laps to go at the line. So we are slowly running out of time in this race. Pretty sure that Edwards knows that. He's trying to do whatever he can to try to make up spots.
It certainly is, and we'll have to see if he can pull that one off. Lap 14 here, on to 15 next time by. We'll be on to 6 laps to go by the end of this one. And the racing is starting to gain in temperature. We'll have a look back through our field, see what's going on. Gary Toll in his own in 10th place. No real racing there. In fact, behind this front group, the racing pretty spread out, although our second group guys are catching up now. We're seeing the racing. Carroll's actually really jumping onto the back of this front group. That is changing the tone entirely. Now, McRitchie is on his own with Kirkman there. We've got Maltby leading a train here of 4 cars. Really close together himself. Us, Leach and Patterson here. This is down for around 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th place. We'll keep our eyes on what's going on there, but we'll take a look at our leaders yet again. No passes this time by. It's stayed consistent here on lap 15. No one really going for anything yet, but the cars are all starting to move around and braking, looking for options, and look at that right behind them. Graham Carroll, the sneaky assassin, climbing right up here into the top 5. Now call it the top 6.
I certainly would. So it's gone from a 5-car battle to a 6-car battle for the lead now. Anthony Catt has got a lot of pressure on him. He's going to have to try to make sure that that pressure does not get to his head. So far, he has been very consistent this race. And he is continuing to be consistent as he hangs on to the lead. Edwards continuing to try to find ways around him. He's got to really close in that gap, though, because remember, Anthony Catt, he wasn't even able to make that move on Edwards until it was right on the gearbox coming off of the final corner. So he really needs so what Edwards needs here is to get that good run off of the final corner before he'll really have any chance of making something work. And right now, I think he might actually be subject to an overtake from Lear Hughes more than he'll be able to take back his lead from Anthony Catt.
Certainly is, as we've got here Carroll fighting with Cox. This is an interesting one here. Oh, it's not with Cox, sorry, it's with Daniels. Carroll to the outside. Are we going to see him try and do exactly what he did? Not going to have the overlap in time, but will Daniels go wide? He does not. Carroll has to stay behind him for now, but fight for 5th place is truly on now as they've separated from the top 4. And we're starting to see some real pushing going. Edwards went a little bit wide there as he tried to get past, but here, Carroll inside. Oh, contact! Ooh. Oh, shady moment there. I need to have a look at this one as, well, it all starts just before that corner. Oh, it was definitely more complicated than that. There was more pushing involved. Carroll's right up behind Daniels. He looks up the inside. Daniels closes him off, sends him a little bit sideways. He drifts. He runs wide. He gets up the inside. Daniels rejoins off the track and kind of pushes into Carroll there. And he definitely rejoins into Carroll, which ricochets him off into the wall. So, unfortunately, that looks like a you problem, Ben Daniels. What's your take, Nolan?
Well, it is hard to say. You know, the car that is off the track, you know, in most circumstances would need to be the one that is careful on rejoining. And Daniels, he was trying to hang on to that position, was a little too aggressive rejoining the track, and ended up just bouncing over the suspension and put himself into the wall. Their lead really heated up, and Lear Hughes taking a big slide through turn 2.
Certainly does. Things getting quite busy at this stage of the race. Lear Hughes dropping himself some time there. Move Lee Anderson up into a podium position here.
So Lee Anderson He's now up into third place. Can he close in to Simon Edwards? Edwards has broken free, more or less, from that main battle, so he is now going to be focused on running down Anthony Catt. On the horizon, I am seeing Matthew Burkett in 32nd place. Could we have lap traffic playing a factor in the ending of this race? If Catt can use Burkett as a pick, he could potentially secure his lead here. We, of course, are coming up with just 3 laps to go. Simon Edwards, though, could also use the lap traffic to his advantage. No doubt might slow down Catt, and that could prove devastating to Catt's lead in this race.
Certainly could indeed here as Anthony Catt and Simon Edwards almost a 2 for now fighting for this one. There's not going to be many laps left to decide this, so we're going to see some action from Simon Edwards very shortly, I think. With that traffic coming up, could be a useful pick for him. Runs a little bit wide to try and get a faster inside line. Not going to be quite enough for him here, but he's going to try. The lap car just gets the hell out of the way of the leaders here. Does not want any part in this incident. I say incident, I mean this race. Doesn't want to create an incident. Would more diplomatic for me to say that way, I think, Nolan. But it's down to a 2 versus 2.
A 2-car battle for the lead shall be then, says Simon Edwards, and I'm pretty sure that is exactly what he wants, and in his opinion, I don't doubt that it'd be the fewer cars trying to go with him for the lead would be the better. He wants to try to run down Anthony Catt without having to worry about defending positions from behind. The Anderson, though, he is still close enough that he could potentially play spoiler in this battle for the win here. Coming up with 2 laps to go now. If Edwards tries to make a look, and potentially Anderson tries to stuff it in with him.
Yeah, we'll have to see whether he can do anything with that one. The Anderson looking like a comfortable 3rd right now. On to the penultimate lap here, lap 19. A lot of places left to decide, and the gap here between Catt and Edwards is looking a little big for an attempt to pass. It seems like turn 1 was the really healthy opportunity for a pass, and Simon Edwards is not there. Clay Hughes has also lost some ground, and it could be the very high track temperatures are really kind of forcing these guys in a position where they're not able to race as hard as they'd like. We've gone from slippery cold conditions, which is hard car working, but once it works it grips, to hot and slick racing here on an Australian track, which is really leading to some fighting in the cars. I think these drivers are probably all sweating behind the wheels.
And we have one car that has just gone off at turn 2. That is on your screen. That is David Kirkman. Another car actually off and into the grass as well, right in the middle of turn 2. That, I believe, was Matthew Burkett who took a spin, and that looked just to be under braking on both cases.
Absolutely. Now coming up to the final corner for the second to last time here. Going to start the final lap, and it's a battle between Catt and Edwards, and Edwards has got to make his move this time by. He's got a good run here on Anthony Catt. This could be his shot. He's within the window of the draft here, so here he comes on the back of the 8 car. Is it going to be soon enough? I don't think he's pulling up close enough yet. He goes to the outside, but he's not going to have the overlap. He's going to have to hope he runs wide and try and undercut, but it's not going to be there yet. Maybe Anthony Catt just won the race here. I'm not sure, but it's not looking like it will go another way unless he could force an opening sooner than that. But Lee Anderson right up behind these guys. If something happens to those two, this is his race to lose. I think if you have to force an opening, Nolan, it's come down to that. Somebody may lose out.
That is usually how, open forcings tend to go, especially at tight, twisty tracks like this. We are now in the second half through the Yokohama Bridge. That was for the last time of the day. Coming up now through the final corners of this race, and I think that Anthony Catt has won this race. I don't think Simon Edwards can close it in time.
One pass amongst your leaders and will get the cream in this race. He might have done exactly what he needed to when it had to happen, because there's not been another opportunity yet for a similar sort of circumstance. So he opened up, but this will see Lee Anderson join them on the podium as Anthony Catt will there with the win. Simon Edwards in second place, and Lee Anderson podiums here at Oran Park. Behind him, though, we had a good battle running on there with, we had McRitchie run wide here in the penultimate corner. He actually rejoins well, but he was ahead of Anderson, and he just runs right off, and he'll drop 2 places, but keeps going. Coming across the line now, back in 12th place for him. Well, that was quite a busy end to the race as the last of our cars here coming across the line, Nolan. We've actually got some back down here. D. Brown down in 24th here. Being chased by Mark Murphy and Neil Stevenson. Sarah Savage back there, of course, after her incident. So she did get back on track. As he runs wide. Mark Murphy will look up the inside, the Apex Academy driver. Oh, and he runs it wide in the outside of the corner. 2 cars will pass him. Could it be 3? It may be. The line is there. It's going to be just in time to hold it. He does. Oh, D. Brown dropping 2 spots there right at the end.
So D. Brown having a big fight of oversteer through that last corner from running wide. Tried to get the power in it, you know, to spin it and keep those spots. Just wasn't able to hang on to it. Final cars crossing the line to close out today's race.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to our results now with Anthony Catt taking the win here at Oran Park. Simon Edwards in 2nd place. Last up at the podium, Anderson there in the 337. Behind them, it's Claire Hughes, Graham Carroll, rounding out the top 5 with Matt Cox, Anthony P.M. Jones, Clark Williams, Gary Tall, and Ewan Patterson rounding out the top 10. And then it's Daniel Puffs, James McRitchie, Simon Maltby, Andrew S. Leach, Dave Martin, James Ruth Jones, Chris Robertson, Tim Adcock, James Child, and Chris J. Morris in your top 20. Rest of those positions up your screen as, wow, it may not exist anymore, but the racing is still good here, Nolan.
Well, the racing is still good, and it pretty much will always be good. That's something that the Monday Night Skippy series has always been phenomenal at. It's always been the series that one of the series I personally like the most. Watching and now covering, goodness gracious, never fails to provide us with a good race.
Certainly does not. Well, thank you for joining us here on Monday Nights as always, and we'll see you as always same time next week. Good night.